Welcome to the new, edgier revlog.
Edgy, I like that.
You like our edgy background? We're trying new things in the
We are not
revlog
afraid to try new
universe.
things.
We're the
like
Power Rangers, people.
Well, you know, I mean, Aaron and I have been out of town. Aaron rode untold miles on his bike. I was on the beach with my wife. Bryan, you held down the fort
I
here
was
in San Antonio.
in San Antonio with rain and heat.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for preaching.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't listened yet, but I heard it was amazing.
Maybe you should listen before you say anything.
But grateful to be
Yeah.
home back in Revlog.
Back in the saddle again.
I like our new home,
Yeah.
and I like our new home can be switched in and out very
Yes.
efficiently.
It's
I like
all-
that it's steps away from our office. I like that. I do.
Yeah,
Just
that is
steps
nice.
away.
But still an undisclosed.
yeah, we're not telling.
Well, today's text is not easy.
No.
We're in Judges chapter 7, the end of Judges chapter 7, minus the last verse for some reason. We won't get into that. And then chapter 8.
Midian and Gideon and Zeba and Zalmunna
Is that how you say it?
and the
Is that-
Tower of Power. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff in there.
I think
Yeah.
Bryan needs to take a vacation.
I don't know. I feel like he was going pretty good there.
Yeah,
There's something there. I don't know.
Yeah.
We need to work on it.
I feel like Gideon's slipping a little bit.
We definitely see a different side of Gideon than we've been talking about his timidity, his fear, and boy, we see a different side of Gideon in this and going forward.
Maybe a victory or two kind of.
It's sort of like you know somebody, and then that person shows up with a really husky voice. And it's like, is that the same person?
I know, it's like, can you really trust him? You just can't. Beware the singer that has a husky voice.
Aaron the lounge singer.
Truly.
I don't know. I think if anybody at the table is a lounge singer, it's probably
Yeah.
Bryan, right?
Wow. I don't think Gideon had any idea what a lounge singer was.
No. The roads does travel, though, right?
Yeah, truly.
How did we get on this?
I don't know. I don't know.
All right, so you were going down some kind of trail
Well,
here with Midian, Gideon. Why,
yeah.
why don't you jump into this text? So as you were reading it, what grabbed you?
I think that there's a whole lot of battle fatigue going on here, and I think that we see it in Gideon. We see it in at best the alliances between the tribes is tenuous. I mean, it's,
Right, yeah.
They each have their own interests.
And you see the tension there.
Yeah.
You see
right.
that tension.
Right.
Absolutely, you do. But boy, when you couple that with the not only the fog of war, which there's some of that going on here too, but that speaks to some fatigue, just some battle fatigue, and I think it is it's instructive. I think it's at least instructive for us if we are going to utilize a lot of our energy resources on doing something that is big, large, requires a lot of energy outlay. And this goes for anything in life, but certainly in spiritual things, because spiritual endeavors take a whole lot of energy. Then we have to be self-aware enough to see that we will get fatigued. Yeah. We will get strained.
Right.
And we're the last people, you are the last person often that wants to believe that because you have had the wind at your back, you have had
Right.
some successes, and you can really sow the seeds of downfall, I think, in that kind of endeavor, because the energy drain is so great.
There's a book called The Good and Beautiful God, and one of the things I appreciate in that book is at the end of the first chapter, it gives you, or at the end of each chapter, it gives you a spiritual discipline. At the end of chapter 1, the spiritual discipline is get 8 hours of sleep. And it says God made you for rest, and you need rest. And that's a beautiful
Absolutely.
thing when you can kind of sleep, especially coming off vacation where I was able to sleep and rest. But with Gideon here in these moments. And sometimes in the trial of war, you aren't given that opportunity, where sometimes you do have to march on, and sometimes you do have to keep fighting, even though you are weary and fatigued.
Yes.
And part of that is in these moments with the Lord, you have to trust the Lord in that strength. And sometimes we fail in that, and I think we're quicker to fail and fall into temptation when we are worn out. But sometimes battle requires you to keep going.
It does. There is often, I wonder, if there are ways to call in reinforcements sometimes, or.
But I don't know. God pretty specifically told him not to
Yes.
with this one, right?
yeah.
With the 300.
Well, that's true, but
Yeah.
but at this point,
Because he's past that
he's
battle.
past that, and
Yeah,
and
maybe so.
what are some steps that he could take? I don't know. Clearly, that's not ideal. What we're reading in here is not.
And the idea then that you rest on that last success, God promised you
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but you need to make sure that you check back in, that
That's
you
right.
Absolutely.
you go back to, okay, God, what next, rather than, and we see that in King Saul too, that
Yep, yep.
he got ahead of God and to his downfall.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Aaron. I mean, sometimes we do see victory with the Lord, and then we just sort of assume the reins ourselves.
absolutely.
And that's never going to end well.
great
So, I mean, as you read this, how did the Lord speak to you?
So
What-
in
what
this
was on your
story
heart?
alone, we have two different interactions that Gideon has, one with Ephraim and one with the guys at Succoth, is that I don't know how you say it, and you really see his progression as a leader to be much more confident and abrasive even, it's the first one that really struck me when these guys from Ephraim came and said, you didn't call us. What's going on? Why didn't you involve us in that battle with Midian? And it was really something that you said, Bryan, in your sermon. For us, it was yesterday. This will air next week.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
just the idea that that's God designed that victory for that leader at that time.
yeah.
And had they needed Ephraim, the men at Ephraim, then God would have involved them. And and Gideon, I think, recognized that, saying, God didn't need you at that point.
Yeah.
And when you're needed, when you're a part of the plan, you're going to be brought into it. I think there was a recognition that for this specific moment, this is what God had instructed. And that kind of calmed them a little bit, just saying, I recognize your great strength and how you could have added to this battle, but that's not what was called for at the time.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we get caught up in, we think we know what we want to be a part of. And sometimes God has us in another part,
Yeah.
right, and doing something else when we want to be over here. And I think that's part of what you see here.
yeah,
So-
Gideon says, look what you just did. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what God needed you to do is,
Right.
this follow up. You clean up, this area, but for that moment, so it's you always wanting to be in the front lines, always wanting to be, right in the middle of the action.
Yeah.
It's not always what God's assignment for you is at that time.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard for us to be content with our assignment. And sometimes we
yeah.
can be jealous of another
Oh, absolutely.
assignment with that. Bryan, as you read, what question came to mind in this text?
As I ramp up to that question, I do want to say I think clearly they are in a different phase here. And you said something about the cleanup. If they're going to continue to prosecute this campaign, it has entered a different stage, and but they're still operating on the initial plan and finding how things have morphed, and maybe you need some help that you didn't need before. That's a crucial concept to contemplate. Who will tell me the truth about what I am doing and how I am doing it? I think Gideon could have used somebody like that.
Yeah.
Who will say, y'all did what you initially wanted to do. You got them on the run. Now things are beginning to fray a little bit, and you need some. You need to shift gears, and you need to rethink this. I think we see a little bit of brittleness in Gideon when he's trying to grip really tightly. the briars and the, whatever. But I think we don't see the thoughtful, introspective Gideon here.
Yeah.
We see somebody who's just a little bit more stretched, thin, and brittle. And so, who will tell me the truth? That's a hard
Yeah,
thing
that's
to
right.
face.
I'm happy to be that guy. I mean, if you're asking, I just.
After the camera stops rolling.
Oh, no, I'll put it on-
Aaron,
I'll put it
no,
on-
no. After the camera stops rolling, I will ask Aaron to tell me the truth.
Aaron, what question came to mind as you read?
Well, am I willing to go back to the fountain?
Yeah.
That is the lesson of leadership for
Right.
all of these kings, judges that we see, the very human side of them that have seen the mountaintop, but forget, or at least for a moment, take their eyes off who got them there and who. I mean, remember, God almost drug him along to get him to this point and really kind of prepared the way. Am I willing, after a mountaintop, to remember that God gave me this assignment, God brought me
Right.
here, so God, what next? And rather than just going,
Excellent. Yeah.
I can see the horizon, so I got this now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I could see ourselves too. I mean, what did God require? It was some pots and some trumpets and
Yeah.
some fire, right? And I could see myself just assuming, well, I've got the formula now. I can win. I can do this, right? So I can go on.
That's right.
I've got the trumpets. I've got the pots.
Yeah.
When God's saying, "Come back to the fountain," right?
That's right.
Instead of you pressing on by yourself, thinking you've got the formula or whatever it might be, to run back to the Lord. So. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on this passage before Aaron tells Bryan the truth. So if you would send those messages along, we'd love to hear them.
Amen.